All right, greetings everybody, and welcome to week number one. That is right, week number one of your 9443 class, which is your academic libraries class. As always, I'm your professor, Dr. Jace K. Alston, and what we are going to do this week is we are going to do our not our state of the course update. We are going to do our course overview check-in videos. So for those of you who have not had me before, what I do is every week that we don't have a synced session, or at least almost every week that we don't have a sync session, I record what I call check-in videos. They're optional. And basically the check-in videos, the reason why I record them, just to go over that really quick, is because there are basically two types of students according to research. So there are students who just want to get the A, they just want to pass the class, get the A's, get the degree, and get a better job. And then there are those students who want an opportunity to build a relationship with the instructor, to learn from the instructor, to gain knowledge from the instructor based on the instructor's experience within the field, and to have an ongoing dialogue and to basically be enriched. And so the check-in videos are really for those of you who fall into that second category. So they are optional, but I do have students who tell me they appreciate that I do them and they learn a lot from them and it helps the class. Another benefit with the check-in videos I've been told is that they do help students to feel that this particular iteration of the class is their own iteration, so they don't feel like they're just opening a Canvas course and then every year or every semester just getting a rehashment of the same thing that came before them, and the next group will get the same thing that happened later. But instead, when students do watch the check-in videos, they feel that the course is something unique to them, and that's because I don't recycle the check-in videos. As you can see that date in the lower right-hand corner, I record these every single semester. They're new every single semester, and so they give the students an opportunity to feel like this is in fact their course and they are hearing from their professor in the present and current time. Okay, so yes, this particular check-in video is going to be the longest one. Unfortunately, it may hinge on about 2 hours because it's going to be a course overview, but the remaining check-in videos will not be this long, so don't worry. And then also, I know I'm a southerner, I speak slow, so I am going to show you how to speed up a check-in video. I'm also going to put those directions in the announcement, and the reason I'm doing that is because yes, students have told me that they can speed these check-in videos up to about 1.5 speed a lot of times and still understand what I'm saying, especially if they, because I upload them into YouTube, and so YouTube does an auto captioning feature, and so when people turn the captions on while they're watching, they're able to follow everything. So with that said, I am going to show you now how to speed up a check-in video, but these directions will also be in the announcement. Pause. All right, for an example, let's use a little friendly cartoon. I'm old enough to remember Rescue Rangers. I was a big fan of that growing up. So I'm going to make myself small here. And as you can see in here, this is going to be Rescue Rangers in real time. And if you want to speed it up, what you'll see is you can come over here, you can go to playback speed and toggle this to 1.5, and you'll notice the speed up when I do that. Come along, you belong, feel the fizz of Coca-Cola. Get to the store and take all you can carry. All right, and so yes, that is how you speed up a check-in video. And so yes, you can go ahead and speed this one up, and I do again recommend that you speed up the check-in videos to 1.5 speed. That'll help you get through them quicker. It'll save probably about 33% of the time off. So yeah, do that, and let's go ahead and get into this course overview. We're going to start with the announcements, and we're going to go through the syllabus. After we go through the syllabus, we are going to look at modules and also assignments, and then I'm going to say a few things about myself, and then we will wrap up. Okay, so again, it might hinge upon 2 hours, but I'm going to tell you logical places to go ahead and take breaks. And so yeah, go ahead and just relax, grab a drink and grab a snack, and let's go ahead and do this. Give me one moment. Okay, so we're going to start out with the course announcements first. We're going to go over those, and there are already 5 announcements while in the class, but the announcements, one thing that I want to make abundantly clear is that reading the course announcements is required. This is my primary form of communication with you. Now, there might be optional content for you to access in the course announcements, and so it's up to you whether or not you're going to access that optional content. But reading the course announcement text itself is mandatory. That is not optional, so you need to do it every time you see a course announcement. Make time to read it, because that is my way of reaching out to y'all. If you miss crucial information that is in a course announcement, such as change due dates or whatever the case may be, I do have in the syllabus that you are required to read the course announcement. So if you don't do so, then it's your fault and not my fault that you have missed out on whatever information you missed out on by not reading the course announcements. All right, let's go ahead and make me small here. And we are going to go ahead and come down here. First of all, the first announcement that we had was the Welcome to Academic Libraries course announcement. So again, my name is Dr. Jace. That's what people call me, and I am going to be your instructor for Academic Libraries this fall. And there are a few things that I want y'all to know before you get started, or as we get started in this first week here. So, first of all, I want to make sure that you all do the work in the first module, first of all. So our first week is from August 24th to August 30th. Our weeks in this class will begin on Mondays and end on Sundays. So go ahead and do the introductory discussion board post, and also do everything that you see in Module 1. I've already talked about the check-in videos, so I won't rehash that. They should be up by I have an extra course this semester, so they'll be up by Wednesday afternoons this semester, but I'll try to get them up before then whenever possible. If you see anything that does not work, such as you can't access, or anything that needs to be brought to my attention, if you see conflicting due dates on something, if you see something that doesn't match up with the syllabus, if you are not able to access something, anything like that, please bring it to my attention so that, again, I can fix things. There are going to be little errors and little things that just kind of pop up with anything. In all of my classes, it's just something that happens. So bring those errors to my attention and I will get them fixed. If you have any questions, please message or email me, and please allow up to 72 hours to respond. I will try to get back to you quicker than that, but sometimes it will take that long for me to get back to you. If you don't hear from me within 72 hours, then please reach back out to me again. All right. So let's have a successful semester. This is not a difficult class, folks. I repeat, this is not a difficult class, because this is not a class like, in a class like reference, I do have to kind of assess your ability to deliver reference service. In a class like intellectual freedom, I'm kind of assessing your ability and your understanding of intellectual freedom and how it plays a part in our field. When I teach the academic libraries class, I'm not really assessing anything. I'm not assessing your ability to work in academic libraries. I'm just kind of giving you some key insights that you'll need if you want to have a career in academic libraries. And by the time you're done with this course, hopefully you will know if you want to go into academic libraries, and if so, what type of academic library you wish to go into. All right, so that is that is that for there. Let's go ahead and look at the remaining announcements. And first of all, we do have our guest speaker schedule that's already up. And you will not have a check-in video next week, because we actually do have a sync session. Sync sessions in this course are going to be Mondays from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Central Time. You need to adjust for your time zone. And also, the reason why we have 3 sync sessions is because it's a happy medium. I have some students that don't want any sync sessions at all. They're like, I'm in a online program, I want to just have a completely asynchronous class. Then you have students who are like, well, I would love to meet every other week or something like that, because I enjoy hearing from the guest speakers. And so having 3 is the happy medium to those who do not want any sync sessions at all. They're just like, well, 3 isn't so bad. And then for those who want them every other week, they're like, at least I got something, okay? So next week we will have our first sync session. So again, no check-in video. And our guest speakers next week will be Brady Cross of Tri-County Technical College in South Carolina, and Mike Crompton of UNC Greensboro. Mike Crompton is the author of a couple of books that discuss community college librarianship, and Brady Cross is somebody who used to be a library worker at a four-year college, and now is a librarian at a community college. And so he has good insights on the differences between working as a librarian in a community college versus being a library worker at a four-year university. And so we're going to have a panel on community college librarianship because it's something that kind of goes overlooked. Not a lot of students really think about the benefits of potentially working at a community college, but I want y'all to be thinking about that. September 28th, Julia Pluta with Cornell University Law School will be discussing academic law librarianship. So there are positions, of course, positions that you do need to have a JD or a Juris Doctorate for in order to work as a law librarian. There are some positions where you need to have both the Master's in Library Science and the Juris Doctorate. But then there are also going to be some positions to where you only need the Master's of Library Science, but you don't need the JD. And for those, but Julia does have both a JD and a MLIS. And so Julia, she's going to talk about opportunities within academic law libraries, which you will find those all over the place. Well, I shouldn't say all over the place, sorry about that. But you'll find them at Mizzou, you'll find them at Wash U, you'll find them at UMKC, and you'll find them throughout the country. Okay. And then on November the 2nd, we will have Joseph Taylor with Coastal Carolina University, who is a makerspace librarian, and Joe is going to talk about makerspaces in academic libraries. So that's going to be our guest speaker schedule. I do think you'll enjoy our guest speakers and get a lot out of them. So I do look forward to hosting them, and I hope you enjoy them as well. All right, moving right along, how to access our textbook. So we are working with a new textbook this semester because the previous textbook that I was using is now out of print. So we will be using this textbook from 2020, Leading Change in Academic Libraries. And and it's not really a textbook in a traditional sense, but it's still a book that enhances the course. You are welcome to buy this book if you would like to. However, you can access it for free by following this link and using this password, okay? So if you see anything in the modules that tell you to read Boff and Cardwell, then that is referring to this particular textbook. All right. Still moving right along, if you please be on the lookout. So for your final assignment, I want y'all to be aware of what your final assignment is asking you to do. And you need to be aware of, I'm not going to read this entire announcement, but because this is going to be a long check-in video anyway, but what I am going to say is, so with your final assignment, basically what I want you to do is hopefully by the end of the semester, you have some idea as to whether or not you want to work in like a community college, or if you want to work in a small four-year university or somewhere like that, as opposed to if you want to work at a Research One institution. And the differences are going to be your involvement. So if you work at a community college, you're pretty much just doing a lot of times your standard 9-to-5 work, and then you're done. You're not going to be publishing and presenting and things like that. And that's also going to be the case at a lot of small four-year colleges and that sort of thing. But then if you get to the R1 level, then, or the Association of Research Libraries level, ARL, then you are going to be you're going to be expected to produce research. You're going to be expected to serve on committees, including being on faculty senate, things like that. You are going to be expected to publish and present all kinds of stuff like that. And so it is going to be a bit more time consuming. The pay will be better. And then also you can build a national platform and if you want that way. So, you know, that's from one extreme to the other. And then there's the middle. If you go to a R2 or a comprehensive teaching university or something like that, then you're not going to have those heavy responsibilities. And what you'll have instead are potentially, like when I was at Coastal Carolina University, that's a comprehensive teaching university. And so, yes, I did have to publish and present, but my tenure process with Coastal University was not going to be nearly as rigorous as, say, if I were at University of South Carolina or at UNC Chapel Hill or at Mizzou. Okay, so it's good to kind of get a feel for what the expectations are going to be for you at the different levels of colleges. And I am going to be speaking about that throughout the semester. But yes, so with that said, go ahead and be keeping an eye out. Like, let's say and I put it in the announcement here. Let's say that you want to be a first year instruction coordinator or freshman instruction coordinator. That job is going to have very different expectations at Mizzou than it is for a Rockhurst University or a metropolitan community college. And then Truman State could be kind of in the middle. Okay, so at Mizzou, you would have to publish and present. You would have to go through if not a tenure process, then definitely a rigorous reappointment process or something like that. Um, and you're going to have to serve on committees. You're going to have to do all kinds of things. If you're at the community college level, the job is basically just doing the job function. You're not writing about it. You're not publishing and presenting about it, blah, blah, blah. And again, Truman State would probably be somewhere in the middle, as would Southeast Missouri State or somewhere like that. Okay. So you are going to want to pay attention to job boards, and if you're on any listservs, pay attention to the job opportunities that come to the listservs and everything. Do job searches every now and then, and if you see that's like, again, if you want to be that type of person, the first year instruction coordinator, try to find 3 different jobs at the same job, but at 3 different institutions at 3 different levels. And you're not restricted to a geographic area because that would be, of course, too hard. So let's say that you are doing this assignment and let's say you want to be a cataloger instead. You wouldn't need to be like, man, I've got to concentrate on cataloging jobs in the state or the region that I want to work at. No, don't worry about that. You could find a cataloger position for the high rigor thing at Princeton or Yale, and then you could find the lower level at the local community college, and then in your local community college could be here in Missouri or in Texas or wherever. And then you could have the middle place be somewhere like, I don't know, Fresno State in California. So you're not restricted to, geography that way. So I want that to be something that y'all keep in mind as well. Okay. All right. So, and if you need any assistance with this, first of all, there are sample papers. I don't like giving sample papers in my classes, but because this is such an intricate and unorthodox assignment, I do have sample papers from last year in the class. So you can look at the sample papers. And then if you need any other particular guidance, you can reach out to me as well. And then also, a lot of times you can actually, and this is in the announcement as well, a lot of times you can actually reach out to these colleges, tell them what you're doing, and get the position description. So rather than waiting around for vacancies, what you might do is you might identify 3 different colleges at those 3 different levels, and then you can just reach out to the library and be like, hey, can I get the position description for your first year coordinator? Hey, can I get the position description for your special collections cataloger, or whatever the case may be. And a lot of times they will go ahead and give that to you, your business librarian, whoever, your health librarian, whoever, with whatever career you wish to go in. And a lot of times, again, they'll give you the position description, and then you can compare and contrast the responsibilities, benefits, perks, that sort of thing. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and look at that final announcement, because now I am drawing blanks on what is in there. Oh, yes. Okay. So the DeWeese article, I'm thankful to one of your classmates who let me know that most space is being a little cranky, and it was cranky for me too. So it's not just cranky for y'all, it's cranky for me right now too. You should be able to log in as a Mizzou student. However, your classmate was not able to, and then I wasn't even able to log in as Mizzou faculty, so I had to reach out to the library, and I got a little workaround. But the article is now just attached to that announcement. So when you get to next week, remember that the DeWeese reading that you need to do is in this announcement. It is attached. Okay. All right. So that is it for the announcements. We're going to go into that syllabus next, but now would be a logical and good time to take a break. So how about you do that and then meet me back here. Pause. All right. So yes, let's now talk about the syllabus. Let's make me small again. So you are in. Let's go. There we go. You are in fall 2026. And so, again, I am Dr. Jason. Again, we've already talked about when we will have our sync meetings. There will be Zoom links that are sent out. Also, I do have a phone number, which is 816-235-1875. I have fax, but please don't fax anything to me unless you really have to. We can usually just scan an email. Email. austinj@missouri.edu, and then office hours if you want to establish office hours to meet with me by Zoom or to meet with me in person at my office at UMKC, then by all means reach out and we will coordinate that. So, course description. This course examines the culture, operations, and environment of academic libraries in the context of institutions of higher education and revolutionary changes in communication, media, and technologies. The emphasis is on communities, cultures, and systems of scholarship and on how college and university libraries contribute to academic teaching and research missions. Topics include the origins and continuity of intellectual traditions, the impact of changes in media and globalization of academic libraries, collections, collectors, and librarianship, as well as service roles, organization, management, and governance of said academic libraries. Guest lecturers will provide insights on current issues and challenges. All right. Learning outcomes. This course really can, there are assignments in this course that can kind of correspond to a multitude of different student learning outcomes for your e-portfolio. You kind of just have to use your judgment. But the student learning outcomes that I apply to this explicitly in the syllabus are student learning outcome number 1, which is graduates will apply the core principles, ethics, values, and body of knowledge to questions in library and information science according to their area of specialty. Also, student learning outcome number 2, graduates will apply management principles and interdisciplinary best practices in library and information agency environments. Okay. All right, let's move right along and get into how you can hopefully get 100 points this semester. And that is through various channels or various assignments here. So this is how your points break down to get hopefully to that total of 100 points. First of all, 30 points will come from discussion boards. We have 15 weeks. We have 1 graded prompt each week. And so you can get 2 points per prompt. So basically with the 15 prompts, you can get 1 point for a post responding to the prompt, and then you can get 1 point for a reply to a classmate. And there will be language in the prompts that tell you this as well. So that's how you get to that magic number of 30. 15 weeks, 1 prompt each week, and with each prompt you get 1 point for a post and 1 point for a reply. If that's not clear, please reach out to me. Academic library website evaluation discussion, that's going to be worth a total of 10 points, and that's going to be due on September the 20th. That's going to be your first major written assignment, and that's going to be in in discussion board form. It's going to appear on the discussion boards because it's something I want your classmates to be able to read the work that you did there and a little bit of peer-to-peer learning. So that's how that's going to work. And I will revisit that a little bit later in this check-in video. 20 points for your essay assignment number 1, which is going to be due on October 18th. We'll come back to that as well. There are going to be 5 sync sessions. You get 3 sync sessions, 3 sync sessions, you get 5 points for each, so that's for a total of 15 points. And then your job comparison final assignment, which will be due on December the 14th, that'll be worth 25 points for a grand total of 100 points. So, grading and creating and credit policies for graduate students. Anything 93 or above in this class will get you an A, 84 to 92 a B, 74 to 83 a C, 73 or below will get you an F. Now, I do award pluses or minuses based on exceptional effort or exceptional lack of effort. So if you really bust your ass in this class and you just blow me out of the water and you finish with a 100, you get all 100 points, and I can tell that your discussion boards were great, and I can tell that your written assignments were great and you did this, that, and the fourth, then I am probably going to give you an A plus instead of just an A. By the same token, if you just kind of mail it in, you do what it will take to get an A, but I can see that you followed the rubric as much as you had to, but you didn't really do much in that regard. And let's say that you also maybe missed a discussion board prompt or 2 or something like that. Then I see it as you're not putting forth the amount of effort that I really like out of an A student, and so you'll probably get an A minus. You'll still get the A if you get the 93, but you will not get the AA. You will get the A minus. Okay. No grade of D is awarded in grad school, so 73 or below you get an F. Required text, again, you don't have to buy it. It is on reserve. with the library, and we just talked about how you can access it, but it is Bob and Cardwell, Leading Change in Academic Libraries, which was published by ACRL. Note that this textbook is available through an e-reserve link. All right. The weekly routine. I am not a stickler for this, but this is something that I just have in writing to cover my ass. It is recommended that you keep a regular routine in this class. So, for example, you can kind of like have your original post in a discussion board up by Wednesday, and then you can have your response to a classmate up by Friday or Sunday or whatever. Now, I will say, don't worry about you have to get everything up or you have to get your original post up by Wednesday or something like that. Don't worry about that. It's not really like that. As long as you get everything up by Sunday, you're fine. The reason why this language is in there is in part because I do like it when I have at least at least two students, really. I like it when I have at least two students who have done everything by Wednesday for the week, because then, like, basically what happens is those students might be like, well, I want my weekends off. I don't want to be doing schoolwork on the weekends, so I'm going to do everything by Wednesday. Well, if only one student does it that way, then that student still has to come back to wait for somebody to reply to for the second point of their discussion board, unless at least two of you have done your original post by Wednesday. So if two of you have done your original post by Wednesday, then one of you, then they just respond to each other. That's basically how that works. And then that way they get the points and everything that they've done everything they need to do for the week, and then they can focus on their other classes on Thursday and Friday and have their weekends off, okay? So that's how some students do it. But I will say that in this class, everything except that final assignment is going to be due on a Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. Central Time. But I'm also not waiting around at my computer until midnight so that I can take points from people who don't turn things in on time. As long as you get things up by Monday morning, by the time I wake up on Monday morning, you're fine, okay? So I don't want you to think I'm going to be busting your spine or anything like that. What I want you to realize is that, hey, I'm human. I'm not. We don't have to take it that seriously, okay? It's not that serious. This isn't a law class. It's not a medical class. It's not something where people's lives are literally in your hands in an emergency like that, okay? So you should expect to spend about 3 hours a week in class, just basically, but then reading and assignments are on top of that, okay? About my participation, please note that I will be reading your posts, and I try to respond to, even if it takes me a few weeks to come back and do so, I try to respond to all the original posts that I can, but I'm not going to be responding to all the replies and everything like that. But, and I will say, yes, I am going to fall behind at some point in this semester. It happens every single semester. So I've got about 100 advisees, and then also I'm on the admissions committee. So basically what happens in October and in March every single year is that's when students start contacting me for advising because registration is opening up. And also that's when we start reviewing applications, and I have to review applications. I look at applications and help determine. I'm on a small 3-person committee that determines who gets to come to Mizzou, who gets to come to Cicely and who doesn't, okay? So having said that, yes, we start reviewing those applications in October, and in March, I also start doing my advising mostly, and I do advising all year long, don't get me wrong, but when course registration is about to start, of course, that's when people are like, hey, we need advising help, and that I get an onslaught in October and in March. Okay, so things slow down for me there. Right now I'm working about 45 to 50 hours a week, but yes, when we get to October and in March, that's when I'm working usually about 65 to 70 hours a week, okay? So please have patience with me once my workload increases, all right? Thank you. Okay, I knew y'all were understanding because y'all are great librarians in training. All right, so, but yes, also I will respond to you when you reach out to me via Canvas or email. I will respond to you within 48 to 72 hours. If you do not hear from me within 72 hours, go ahead and send me another message. All right, late work policy. This is something that I have, again, in the syllabus to cover my behind, but it's not really something that y'all have to really feel that, oh, he's a stickler for that. He can't be spoken to. He goes by what is in that document. No, I am human. So first of all, I'm going to tell you what the document says, because I do need to be able to show the graduate school, hey, this is what the document says. They didn't follow this, so I penalize them accordingly. But then I'm also going to tell you that I'm human. So let's talk about what the document says first. Late work policy will have, there will be a deduction of 10% per day, every day that it's late up to 5 days, and then it's not accepted. You must contact me before you plan to turn in a late assignment, unless something happens, like you're in the hospital, in jail, or something like that. There's no makeup for missed discussion weeks, and no makeup for sync sessions, okay? Now, here's what I'm going to say about that. Again, I have that in writing so that I can hold y'all accountable to that. But here's the thing. I am human, okay? So just reach out to me. When things are going on, reach out to a brother, all right? So, yeah, reach out. There are times when you just need to get away from it. There are times when life is happening, okay? And I've had a lot of life happen to me this year and last year, so I understand that, okay? So yes, yeah, I have the language written in about, hospitalization or jail or that sort of thing, but it could be other things. The university does give you bereavement time if an immediate family member dies, so like a parent or a sibling or, God forbid, a child. I hope nobody loses a child in here. But, well, I hope you don't lose anybody, but I am going to say losing parents, that's just kind of how things go. That's not meant to be mean. It's just how things are. But I will grant extensions beyond, just immediate family. If a grandparent dies, if a cousin, aunt, uncle, friend, pets even. Pets are a big deal. Your dog may have lived with you for 15 years, and then your dog dies. Like, let's say your dog dies, that your dog that you had for 5 years or whatever, that was your best friend in the house. That dog dies at on a Wednesday when you have a paper due on Sunday. Let me know. Hey, Dr. Jason, my dog died and it is tearing me up. I'm gonna give you a few extra days to deal with that. That can be your cat, that can be whatever. I probably shouldn't discriminate with animals, so yeah, even a goldfish, but goldfish don't live that long. So I've never had anyone contact me and be like, my goldfish died, I need an extension. It's usually like cats or dogs. But yeah, cats and dogs, they are family, man. My ex-wife's dog was living with me for a while after me and her separated, and it hurt just as much to get that dog back as it hurt when she left, so those are the types of things that we deal with, you know what I'm saying? So yes, talk to me. And it can be other things as well. Again, if you are I've had students that just had emergency situations where they had to move. It could have been domestic violence, it could have been bed bugs. I had a student last year who had like a bed bug infestation in the place she was renting, and her landlord just basically made her leave immediately. Well, that's very stressful. You can contact me and be like, hey, Dr. Jace, I gotta move. I gotta move yesterday. Can I please turn in this stuff late? Yes, of course. Yes, of course. So things like that, car accidents, things of that nature, let me know. Things that just put you in a situation where you can't think straight or you can't operate. And then they can also be happy things at times. I use weddings as an example. If you are getting married on Saturday, I don't want you to feel like you have to turn in something on Sunday and, skip your wedding night. Your wedding night should be with your spouse, not with Dr. Jace, okay? If your wedding night is with me, I am going to actually be very concerned. So, just tell me about that stuff and give me a heads up ahead of time. And yeah, I will grant extensions for stuff like that. So basically, yes, reach out to me, and there may be some concessions and accommodations that I'm willing to make, okay? All right, so readings. This course presents a challenging reading load. Readings fall under two main categories, required and supplementary. You are responsible for the required readings. Supplementary readings are basically recommended but not required. And the ratings will include things such as current articles focusing on academic librarianship, historical material, theoretical and methodological readings that concentrate on foundational texts, and then also reading from different disciplines that have influenced the study of academic libraries, okay? Incomplete, so if you don't do everything, then you will get you'll get an F unless we talk and there's a good reason why you didn't do everything, and then you can potentially get an incomplete. And so if you get an incomplete, me and you need to talk about that, and you can get up to basically a year to finish the work that you weren't able to finish at that time. And then once you finish that work, you submit it all to me, I grade it, and then I go in and I request a grade change within my zoo, and the powers that be make that happen, okay? But yes, so if you come on to bad times, had a student that just had a nervous breakdown once and couldn't finish out the last 4 weeks of class, and we talked and they took it incomplete, and then they came back later and finished the work over the summer because that was a spring class. That's fine, and so they had a complete grade come the next fall, okay? All right, so now would be a good time to take a break. Go ahead and take a break right here, and then we're going to talk about our modules and what we'll be talking about throughout the semester. Pause. All right, so let's talk about our modules now and what we will be talking about throughout the semester. Unit 1, which is the unit that we are in right now, that is our introductory readings for the week of August 24th. So these are like the foundational readings and that sort of thing that just basically introduce you to the academic libraries concept. Week number 2, which again, remember, we do not have a check-in video next week. Week number 2, we will be speaking on the history of academic libraries and the history of the academy. And again, remember that one of your readings is actually in an announcement that I posted earlier today being Tuesday the 25th, okay? So origins of history of the academic, of the academy and libraries, scholarly traditions and institutions of higher learning. Revolutionary changes in communication and information media and the effects of media shifts on institutions of higher learning, okay? Unit number 3 will be organizational culture. We will be talking about organizational culture within academic libraries, leadership, and members of the organizations. And this does this include? No, this does not. Okay. So then week number 4, we talk about governance. Governance being, let's just read this description here, that the library is one department or college on campus, how the campus is managed, who makes decisions, how money is allocated, those sorts of things. We'll be speaking about that in the governance section. Unfortunately, there's not a good governance book chapter that I can refer you to, because again, that book by John Budd that I used to assign is out of print. The closest thing that I had with the textbook that we're using is chapters 1 and 2, but we are going to have to talk about governance in other ways as well. I will be using a different textbook probably next year that has not come out yet, and I actually have a chapter in that textbook talking about governance. So my students for fall 2027 are going to have a dedicated governance chapter, but unfortunately y'all won't have access to that because the book isn't out yet. And I'll also say I wish I could share the chapter with you, but that would be a no from the publisher, okay? So yeah, there's that. Okay. And your review of the academic library website, by the way, is going to be due in that same week. Week number 5 will have an administration crash course. There is a book from 2014, the Academic Library Administrator's Field Guide. You can access that for free through Mizzou Libraries, and you'll just read that. It is a full book, but it is a quick read, and you'll learn some things about being an academic library administrator, okay? So that's what's going to go on there. Then in Unit 6, or Week 6, we're going to talk about organization and management of academic libraries. And that other thing that I was trying to think about, that's not there either. So I can't remember where I put, oh, yeah, it is. Okay. This is what I was thinking about right here. So when you talk about academic libraries, and this is something that I don't want to spend too much time on right now, but we may revisit this in future check-in videos. But basically, a lot is said about how toxic the leadership is in academic libraries. Now, personally, I would say that, I don't know. on different days, I feel different ways as far as is the leadership of academic libraries, is it particularly toxic, more toxic than what you'll find elsewhere? But what I am going to say is this: there are a lot of leaders in academic libraries that had higher aspirations. A lot of the people who are in management in academic libraries are people who wanted to be lawyers or wanted to be doctors or engineers and things like that. They flamed out. They found, or they wanted to be professors even, and they flamed out. And so they found themselves in academic libraries. And these people are so deflated by not reaching their life goals that they just kind of take it out on other people. So there's a lot to be said about, people talk all the time about toxicity within academic library leadership and supervisors. And you'll even find a lot of books on that. And here you will find a dissertation about that. Okay. So the Ortega dissertation, it's pretty interesting, and you'll see some other readings here as well. But I don't want to scare y'all out of pursuing careers in academic libraries. For me, academic libraries did provide a lot of safety. They're comfortable environments. A lot of times, I don't want to use the term riffraff, but I'm just going to say it. A lot of difficult people, people in the public libraries, they're dealing with difficult people constantly. You know, just anybody off the street is coming into the public library. I worked as a public librarian for a year and a half. Man, there were times when I was just stressed out of my mind because of what was going on in that library. It was a inner city library in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. A lot of my patrons were ex-cons. A lot of my patrons were people putting their lives back together. A lot of people were homeless. A lot of people were sex offenders. I could go on the sex offender registry and see so many of my patrons on there at the public library. And so I realized the stress of dealing with the public, because anybody could come into that library at any time. And unless they broke a library rule, you couldn't keep them out. So when I compare that to who comes into an academic library, yeah, academic libraries can actually be pretty comfortable in that sense. Okay. But having said that, a lot of times what academic librarians will do is they will make problems for themselves and for each other, and that gets very tiring as well. Libraries and money, first week in October. We talk about libraries and budgets and things like that. Budgets are always going to be an issue with academic libraries. You always hear about cuts, furloughs. It happens so much. We got to get rid of this line. We have to get rid of this position. We have to do this. We have to do that. We have to consolidate jobs. That's stuff that you're going to be hearing throughout your academic library career, unfortunately. And it can be very stressful as well. But learning how the money works gives you a deeper understanding of how these institutions function. So we'll be speaking about that. The system of scholarly communication, that's going to be something where we're talking about basically scholarly communication. So you'll read one of these or the other. They're both long reads. They might be things that you want to read them both. If you're interested in scholarly communication, a lot of places have a particular scholarly communications librarian, and these people do things like try to, for instance, establish institutional repositories or make sure that faculty are contributing to the institutional repository and things of that nature. So scholarly communication is a big deal. It's one of the things that really differentiates an academic library from a public library. So, I mean, there are many things that do, don't get me wrong, but that's one of the big ones. Scholarly communication, you got to have that on point at your academic libraries. We will have your first essay assignment due then. That's going to be October the 18th, which is a Sunday. Collections, we will talk about that in Unit 9/Week 9. And that will include collection development. I know y'all have a collection development class at 7313, but we will talk about collection development specifically within academic libraries that week. We'll read about that stuff at least. We'll also talk about special collections and that sort of thing. So yes, there's a lot to be said there. And collection development can be very fun, actually. It's not fun to learn about in library school, but it can be actually very fun to do. And then also it's wise to take a look at like consortia and things like that when you're talking about collection development. So, a consortium would, for instance, be like you have all these member libraries that are part of Mobius, which is a library entity, academic library entity here in Missouri. And the consortia allow these libraries to share things with one another, basically, share resources, share databases, share information, best practices, and all that sort of thing. So consortia can be very good, especially when there are expensive resources that you can kind of get. Like, there are some resources, don't ask me to name which, but there are some resources that are system-wide resources within the system. So you'll have them at Mizzou, UMSL, UMKC, and up in Rolla. And the only way that they would be affordable to all four institutions would be through that consortium agreement within the system. Okay. All right, so moving right along, Unit 10, Electronic Information in Academic Libraries. Challenges of managing collection, purchasing, licensing, and subscriptions. So that's feeding off of what we talked about the week before. Also, aggregations of information that complicate management of access. All right, so you've got some readings there. Week number 11, communities, librarians, and libraries. Service and different needs of faculty. The different needs of faculty and students, building services to meet the needs of many constituents, academic librarians, knowledge, skills, and values. Okay. So you're going to have two things from the textbook there. And then also, yeah, we're going to get into some different types of reading here, especially this was actually a pretty interesting read, responding to hate, how national and local incidents sparked action at UNLV libraries. I think y'all will enjoy reading that case study there. And there are some other things to talk about. Also, there is going to be this signage presentation that I want y'all to kind of look at as well. Well, not kind of look at, I want y'all to look at. I will say that there is an audio problem, so you are going to have to, basically, when my coworker Danny, when she recorded this, they did a huge signage project at UMKC's library, Miller Nichols Library, and Danny was in charge of it, and she did a great job. However, when she did this recording talking about it, one thing that kind of went awry was that she was getting echoed when she was recording. So that's why I wear these headphones, because I've had the same thing happen to me. But she did a really good job. You're just going to hear the echo, and so you're going to have to really pay attention to get everything that you can out of that presentation. But it's a good presentation. Information literacy, we talk about the framework a lot that week. If you don't know what the framework is right now, that's okay. You definitely will by the time that week is over. But the framework does contextualize information, basically. And this is how ACRL, the Association of College and Research Libraries, this is how they are approaching the contextualization of information in academic libraries now. A look ahead or a look to the future will be week 13, so we'll be looking at trends and that sort of thing. And so you'll see that these articles are a bit newer than some of the other things that you're looking at. I'm actually hoping to get some more post-COVID stuff going on. But these things were published during COVID. And then week number 14, standards and evaluation. ACRL does have standards. They do have competencies. They do have things that they want you to be mindful of when you're making decisions. And then also when you're developing services and that sort of thing. So we'll be looking at theory and practice and standards and evaluations that'll be due on, or that'll begin on November 30th. So when we come back from Thanksgiving break. And then finally, unit number 15, that's going to be safety and security. That's going to be our final thing, and that's going to be due on, or we're going to do that on December the 7th. So, and that does include, so these are actually, again, pretty interesting readings. I may be saving the best for last here, but I think these are the best readings that we have within the course, or the most interesting readings that we have within the course. So we'll talk about sexual harassment at University of California libraries, and then also framework for analysis of management and security issues, and then also where are the bathrooms, academic library restrooms, and student needs. So these things matter. And then that final, what is being referred to here as case study, but basically that job comparison assignment that's going to be due at the end of the semester on December the 14th. So I'm going to go through the boilerplate pretty quickly, actually, because these are the same things that are going to be on pretty much every syllabus. There's not a need for me to truly belabor this that much. So, let's talk about it. First of all, resources and policies. You'll see a little explanation of support and policies within the Canvas space. Artificial intelligence, basically what I want y'all to take from this is no AI, please. Don't have your AI writing your stuff for you, okay? Um, you know, you keep feeding this AI beast, and it's gonna have a detrimental effect on libraries, because then we will have librarians who are not competent enough to think on their own, and so they will be deferring to AI, and AI will then kind of be more involved in library functions than we really need it to be, because we really do need libraries to be powered, functioned, and fueled by humans, not by AI, okay? Academic integrity, I'm just going to keep it simple there. Don't cheat. If you cheat, I'm going to turn you in, and you're going to fail the class. All right, academic inquiry, course discussion, and privacy. Basically, the main thing that I want y'all to take from that is what happens in this class. I want it to stay in this class, okay? So I don't want y'all to be doing anything like, let's say you don't like what a classmate of yours said. I don't want you to be going out there trying to dox your classmate or anything like that. Please do not do that. There is no room for that. If you don't like something that was said, don't screenshot them, put them on social media, and try to put them on blast and try to make it so that they can't get a job, okay? Don't do that. If there needs to be some conflict resolution done, you can reach out to me. Also, if you feel that your rights have been violated, you can reach out to the equity office that we used to call the Title IX office before the Trump administration. But reach out to the equity office, and if there is harassment or something like that, you can file a complaint, that sort of thing. If you don't feel that it rises to that level, but it's something you want to involve me on, then by all means, just go ahead and do that. Also, if something goes on and you feel that, I hope this won't happen, and it hasn't happened yet, so knock on wood. But let's say that you feel like you've been discriminated against by me, or you've been made to feel harassed or something by me, then reach out to the equity office if it reaches the level of being that serious. Now, if you just didn't like something I said, that's not necessarily harassment or abuse, and you are welcome to bring that to my attention and tell me, hey, I didn't appreciate that, and that was this, that, before. And we can have a discussion about that. Back in the day, back in 2009, I believe, President Obama had like a beer summit. And that's, we can have our little beer summit. We probably won't drink a beer together, but we can get on Zoom and talk. And sometimes I think that that's a lost art. I think that we've lost the art of actually talking to each other and talking out our disagreements. But I am just fine to do that if you are. FERPA, I am not going to violate your privacy. I'm not going to tell people the grades that you made in here. I'm not going to be disclosing any sensitive information about you to anybody else, and that does include your spouse. So I've had, not here at Mizzou, but I've had an interesting situation before where somebody was upset that I wouldn't give them information about their spouse. Well, FERPA doesn't even allow me to give information about your spouse, about you to your spouse, okay? So just know that. So yeah, I will do my best to protect your privacy at all times. Intellectual pluralism, we don't have to agree on everything. We're not going to agree on everything, but please just respect people's viewpoints. Let's have this be a place of mutual respect and understanding. And if we can make this a place of mutual respect and understanding, then also this can then become a place where we can exchange ideas, grow from each other's ideas. We can grow even from disagreement. And again, I think that's the lost art. I'm from a very different generation, honestly. So I am a millennial, but I'm an exennial. I was born in 1983. And so I will say when I was in undergrad from 2001 to 2005, there was, first of all, safe space wasn't even something we'd ever heard of back then. Again, that was a generation ago, over 20 years ago. We'd never heard of safe spaces at that point, but college was where you had dicey conversations back then. And by the way, this was right, again, I started college in 2001, so what happened in 2001? I left home in August of 18, and in September of 2001, you know what happened. And so The world changed right before my eyes, and there were a lot of things that were said and said openly that people wouldn't even dream of saying now. But I will, and not all those things were good, but I will say that we had very tough conversations on college campuses back then, and college campuses are now no longer a place where we have tough conversations. But in my class, if we need to do that, we're going to do that. But we can make this still a space of mutual respect. All right. Mental health. Don't suffer in silence. Okay. If you have a diagnosis, please talk to me about it if it's something that's affecting your work. Also, if you have a disability, we'll talk about disabilities in a second here. But if you have a disability, please talk to the accommodations office. And just know that, yeah, don't let what you're going through be the last thing that you're going through. Okay, call 988 if you need to. Reach out to the counseling center if things get too overwhelming. If I'm the last line of defense you have, reach out to me. I'm hoping that that's not ever going to be the case because I'm not a trained mental health professional. But, I would rather you reach out to me than no one ever reach out to you again. Okay. So when you're having mental health struggles, do what you need to do. Inform me about what's going on. Do what you need to do. And, we'll get you the help that you need if you need some help. Okay. All right. Netiquette, please just basically know that not everything that is seen as humorous or seen as lighthearted or not serious or whatever, it may seem that way when you're typing it, but it can be interpreted some very different way, especially when people don't have visual and visual and like sound clues from you. They don't have tone deflections and things like that. And so things get misconstrued all the time in this environment, this academic, not academic, this online environment. And so just be mindful of what you say. Again, I want to create a space of mutual respect here. Religious holidays and accommodations. I'm a Christian myself, and I'm a former atheist, and I also used to be a Noahide. So I've done a little bit of travel as far as my religious beliefs, and so yes, I do understand that different people have different religious beliefs, okay? And so if your religious beliefs are, not the Christian mainstream that we have in this country, if you're Jewish or you're Muslim or Hindu or Buddhist or whatever, then, and you have religious holidays that are associated with that, please just let me know that you need accommodations for your religious holidays, and I will do that. Even if you are an atheist, which atheism is not a religion, it's the absence of religion. But if you are an atheist and you have some observance that you want to honor as an atheist, again, just let me know. And I'll work with you as long as it's not something silly and off the wall. But I don't see y'all doing that. Okay, non-discrimination policy. I cannot and will not and do not want to discriminate against you based on race, color, national origin, ancestry, religion, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, age, disability, veteran status, or any other protected and status as applicable by state or federal law. Okay, if you feel that you have been discriminated against me, reach out again to the Office of Institutional Equity, or what I was referring to as the Equity Office. If you feel like one of your classmates has discriminated against you or harassed you or threatened you or anything of that nature, again, do the same thing. Reach out to the Equity Office and they will deal with it, and we will try, they'll try to reach a resolution. They'll try to reach whatever resolution you need. Students with disabilities, again, if you have a disability, physical or mental, or whatever else there may be, please reach out to the disabilities office so that you can establish an accommodation plan with them. They will work with you to establish that plan, and then once that plan is established, then they will contact me with a they'll contact me basically, and I'll either revise the plan with them or I'll accept the plan or whatever the case may be. But it's something that is in place for you to help give you concessions so that you can be your best in this class, which is what we want to happen. We absolutely want you to be your best in this class and wherever else. COVID is not something that's really relevant to this class at this point because this class doesn't meet in person. All right, let's go ahead and do a pause here, and then we'll talk a little bit about the assignments, then we'll do another pause, and then I'll talk a little bit about myself, and then we will be done. All right, take a pause right here. All right, so let's talk about those three main written assignments that I had spoken to you about. First, the review of the Academic Library website. Basically, what's going to happen is you are going to review a library website, and these are some helpful readings that may help you evaluate how good or how not good you feel your academic library website is. So you can refer to these and get some ideas, but then each of you is assigned a library website. The library website that you are assigned is the one that is to the right of your name. So wherever you see your name, the library that is next to it, Google them, look at their library website, and then talk about how good or not good that library website is, okay? This will be worth 10 points. It's not a detailed rubric. Basically, 6 points for giving a thoughtful review to the website of the academic library you were assigned, and then 4 points for appropriate English usage and, where necessary, use of APA, okay? It is best to cite sources in this and all of your major written assignments, and so you will be using APA, and I will be talking about 2 common APA mistakes. Yeah, so there's that. And then like I said, and this has confused a lot of students in the past, so I want it to be clear. The website that you are assigned, or the college that you are assigned, is the one that your name appears to the right of. So, to the left of. So if you don't see, if you see something that's blank, that is not yours. If you see that, like the Juilliard School, it doesn't have a name next to it, it means that nobody has assigned that, okay? And I don't have enough students to have assigned that this semester, all right? So if you have any questions about that, again, please reach out to me and we will clarify that. But yeah, and you're gonna respond in the discussion board, because again, what I want is for, after they're all done, I want y'all to be able to read each other's work there, and this will help you kind of get some feelings of what your classmates felt were good and bad websites, and judging accordingly, you can kind of gauge what when you go into, let's say you do something related to information architecture or something like that in a future career. This will allow you to, just make the determination of, what is good, what is bad, what do I want to incorporate in my library's website, what do I want to avoid, that sort of thing. All right, so you have that. All right, the second one that we're going to talk about is, we're going to talk about essay assignment 1, which will be here. And basically what this is a case study. So you're going to write a paper of about 1,000 words, and you are going to look at this case study. It presents a dilemma within the library for you, and what you're going to do is basically describe how you would act based on the reading that you've done so far. You're going to, not in Q&A form, by the way, in essay form, but you are going to discuss exactly how you would handle this particular situation that is laid out in front of you. You're going to follow this rubric to do that, all right? And so, yeah, it's a hypothetical. It's a hypothetical about, all right, yeah, I made some modifications, so I wanted to make sure I remembered the modifications that I made. Yes, so this is going to speak about cost cutting and what you're going to do in the face of a budget crunch, okay? And it's not that there is necessarily a right or wrong, just again, it kind of needs to, well, not kind of, it needs to make sense, and it needs to make sense based on the readings that you've done so far, okay? If it does, you'll be just golden. Finally, we'll have one more assignment. What will that final assignment be? It is the job comparison final assignment. And so again, what we were speaking about earlier, there are 3 very different types of libraries. Basically, you have, again, the libraries where you just do your 8 hours and go home, and those are usually your community colleges, your small colleges, and that sort of thing. Then you have like research twos and comprehensive teaching libraries, comprehensive teaching universities, and things like that. And you would try to, those libraries have different things going on as well. You may have to do a little more. You may have to do some publishing and presenting. There may be tenure track librarian jobs. In other words, you may have to go through a tenure process to be tenured at those libraries and everything. But again, this might not be as rigorous, like a comprehensive teaching university, a Coastal Carolina, a Southeast Missouri State, something like that isn't going to be as hefty as, say, a UNC Chapel Hill or a University of South Carolina, Columbia, or Florida State or University of Florida. Your ARL institutions, which is the Association of Research Libraries, look that up. Google that. That is something that you get your real top-notch libraries there. That's actually by invite only, even. The Association of Research Libraries is by invite only. And so they are really the upper echelon. They are your UNCs. They are your Ivy Leagues. They are your Dukes. They are your, again, Mizzou's, University of Kansas, so forth and so on. But yes, if you go to those places, they may have different tenure requirements than the comprehensive teaching universities. And as an example, a UNC Chapel Hill may require you to actually publish in the notable serials, the notable periodicals within librarianship. They might require you to publish in the Journal of Academic Libraries, Journal of Public Libraries Quarterly, things like that. And you have to get tenure. The way you get tenure is by publishing in those top-notch places, whereas getting tenure at Coastal Carolina University could be as simple as actually not being a theory shop, but actually producing internal documents. Even when I was at Coastal, I was on tenure track, and I was getting tenure credit for things that were published for in-house use, like for instruction manuals and things that were to be used by my coworkers. That counted toward my tenure there. So it can just vary in that sort of way. And so you want to look at these various different factors. Again, do you want to be a nationally known librarian, what they call a rock star? And do you want to be somebody who is presenting at all of the library conferences and you're a big name person? You're running for ACRL president, you're running for ALA council, those sorts of things. Do you want to be that type of a heavy duty person? Or are you okay with, being somebody who, just produces stuff for the state conference and everything, does a little bit of state networking, but mostly has your time to yourself and that sort of thing? A lot of people who are at places like Chapel Hill and Yale in these big time libraries and things like that, they end up putting a lot of their free time even into publishing library material, okay, or putting together library presentations, putting together webinars, and that sort of thing. And so if you don't want to be that person that makes librarianship your life, then you probably want to stay away from a Chapel Hill. You probably want to stay away even from a Mizzou. You probably want to stay away from, certainly an Ivy League or a Duke or something like that. You want to stay away from a UCLA or a Southern Cal. All right. Because those places, they will consume you very quick and make them your entire life. All right, so just be mindful of things of that nature. Okay, yeah. So be mindful of that, and so this assignment will help you just kind of determine or have you kind of think through what type of librarian job you want to have in the future. Do you want to be at one of these big name libraries with a big professional development budget, and you're traveling to all the conferences and known by all the people? Or again, do you just want to be somebody who, when I was at the community college, I did my hours and then I went home. I didn't have to publish or present for anybody. I could if I wanted to, but I didn't have to. I just had to serve my students, do my day-to-day work, and then my time was my time. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, this assignment where you were doing the comparison of the same type of job at 3 different libraries, this will really help you kind of get a feel for, and think through what you want to be responsible and what types of jobs you want to be applying for coming out of library school. Now, I will say that you are not wedded to one thing or the other for the rest of your career. So a lot of people may start at a Chapel Hill and be like, oh man, this is too much for me. Or UVA, oh man, this is too much for me. And then they, I've known people who went from Chapel Hill to, say, Wake Forest, which is a step or two below, or They went to a UNC Wilmington where I got my graduate degree. Where I got my undergraduate degree, or a place like that, and the expectations weren't quite as heavy. But there are people who transition the other way around. There are people who just got whatever job they could right out of library school, but they built their skill levels up. And that's something that you'll find, it is worth me saying this right now. That's something that you find at academic libraries a lot. You'll find a lot of people who built their skill set at a smaller library. So for instance, you'll have people who start at maybe Guilford College Library in North Carolina, and they wear many hats because it's a small library. They learn how to do many things. They get good at many things. And then they go to a larger library like a UNC Greensboro or UNC Chapel Hill, and they've learned how to do a lot of things. So they're valuable because they know how to do a lot of things, but then they get focused in that bigger role at or at that bigger institution on a role that's more specific. And so, you build up a resume real quick. You impress the people at the big libraries with all the skills you picked up from having to wear so many hats at the small library. And then you get to the big library and then you focus on one particular thing that you like the most. So there are a lot of different career trajectories that you can go through in academic libraries and everything. And so I don't want y'all to lose sight of that either. Okay. And but yeah, I do want y'all to, as you're going through this course, be mindful of what type of library work you want to do, even beyond just, do you want to be a cataloger? Do you want to be a reference librarian? Do you want to be an instruction librarian, a business librarian, whatever? I want you to actually think about the type of institution you want to land at as well. And you may not get there. In fact, you probably won't get there right out of library school, but you can take a job that wasn't your dream job and build your skills until you get to the point where you are now, okay, yeah, now I'm in a place where I'm ready to move to my dream job, and you can eventually get that dream job, okay? So that's something that I'm hoping that this class will prepare you for in your future career as an academic librarian. So those are your 3 major assignments, and then again, we've also got all of those discussion board prompts, and then you do have the 3 sync sessions. So that's how this semester is going to roll. Take a break right here, and then I'm going to talk for about 10 to 15 minutes about myself a little bit, just so you know who you're dealing with, and then after that we'll be all done. So we'll be an hour and a half, not 2 hours like I originally said. All right, let's go ahead and pause here. Okay, so finally, let's meet the madman behind the plan, which is Dr. Jace right here, Jason Kelly Austin, aka Dr. Jace. Letting you know who I am, and I'm going to say a few things just so you know that I do have the experience. I'm the real deal. I also, in all of my first check-in videos with what I'm going to say at the end, and it's not to make you uncomfortable, it's to kind of help you understand the situation that you're in a little more, and to help you understand me a little bit more. So one thing that I kind of want to leave y'all with, well, no, let me talk about my background and experience first. First of all, again, I am Dr. Jace, Jason Austin. You can call me Jace, you can call me Dr. Jace, which is what most people do. You can call me Dr. Austin, you can call me, I'm not into all the formalities, okay? But giving you some background on me, I grew up in Soul City, North Carolina, which is a small town on the North Carolina-Virginia border. That it really is the name of the place, Soul City, North Carolina. You can look it up. Founded by Floyd McKissick, who was a civil rights leader in the state of North Carolina. I spent my teenage years in Richmond, Virginia. Graduated from Meadowbrook High School in 2001. After that, I went to UNC Wilmington, got a BA in English in 2005. I worked as a newspaper reporter from 2005 to 2008 for the Henderson Daily Dispatch in Henderson, North Carolina. I got my master's degree in library science in 2008 from North Carolina Central University in Durham, North Carolina. North Carolina Central being the only HBCU with a accredited library science program. If you don't know what a HBCU is, go ahead and put your Google skills to use. That's something else that you need to know if you're working in academic libraries, okay? Upon graduating from North Carolina Central from 2008 to 2010, by the way, this does mark my 20th anniversary in the field because I started library school in August of 2006. So I've been in the field for 20 years now. I started my first job, was the uh, as a diversity resident librarian, and we'll talk about that in one of the check-in videos. I'll talk about what residencies are. But I was a diversity resident librarian for UNC Greensboro from 2008 to 2010. Then I worked for Forsyth County Public Library in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, in inner city Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and that was a rough library. I was there from 2010 to 2011 for a year and a half. After I left there, I went to earn my PhD at the University of South Carolina. And while I was at the University of South Carolina, I began teaching for their program, and then also I was a community college librarian at Midlands Technical College in Columbia, South Carolina. In 2017, I got a job in Myrtle Beach, Coastal Carolina University, and I really enjoy living in Myrtle Beach. It's a great place to live. If you get a job in Myrtle Beach, take it and don't leave it like I did. But yes, I worked for Coastal Carolina University from 2017 to 2018. Sometimes I do wish I'd stayed, but I wasn't putting my PhD to use at Coastal Carolina University. I had a job that only required a master's degree, and this job actually only requires a master's degree, but preferred qualification was a PhD. So I became a professor here at Mizzou. I'm stationed, however, not in Columbia. I'm stationed in the Kansas City area so that I can work with Kansas City advisees and be a liaison between the program. And if they need me to do anything in the metro Kansas City area, I am here to do that. So I have an office at the campus of UMKC. I have been here since 2018, so I am starting my 8th year here now. And yeah, I actually do hope to be here until I retire. If God has better plans for me, then God will reveal those plans at that time. But I am here until God tells me to move, basically. So I do have varied experiences. I've been at an R1. UNC Greensboro is an R1. I've been in an R2. UMKC. I've been at a comprehensive teaching university, Coastal Carolina. I've been in a community college, which I think is the best of both worlds. Community colleges. My favorite job was my community college job at Midlands Technical College in Columbia, South Carolina. And again, it was because it blended the best of both worlds. It was I worked as an academic librarian, but I was working with students who reminded me of myself, students who were country, students who didn't have that entitlement, things like that the big four-year university students tend to have, and that sort of thing. So I'm a really big proponent of community college librarianship. It's great. It's awesome. Don't rule it out. Don't knock it. Don't knock it till you try it. All right. And so, yes, but since I've been here, I've been teaching academic libraries, reference, and an assortment of other classes. And yeah, I also do a lot of various publishing and presenting, not as much as the tenure track professors, but I still do some. I'm not a tenure track person, but I still have an expectation to publish and present, and I still do so. So if you want to ever see my CV, let me know. And so I do have at least one publication a year. I try to get 3, but that's not always possible. And because I also have a heavier teaching load than the tenure track librarians, because they have to, because they are tenure track, they have less time for actual teaching because they are publishing, presenting, researching, and that sort of thing. Okay. All right. So some other things that I do want to mention is that I have been involved in a number of associations as well. So I've done a little bit of work with the Missouri Library Association. In fact, I still am doing a little bit of work with the Missouri Library Association. The You Belong Scholars, I work with them. If you don't know who they are, just look them up. Again, you can Google them. But I did more state association work back when I was in the Carolinas. I am an ALA member. I am also a BCALA member. BCALA is the Black Caucus of the American Library Association. So I do quite a bit of work through them as well, and have for a long time. I do recommend that you get involved with state associations and with ALA and some other associations that you can then build up your resume, get to meet people, get to network, all of those things. All right. There are perks to that, and we'll talk more about that throughout the semester. The last thing that I want to mention, and then we will wrap it up, is, and again, I say this to every single class, I am Black, as you can see, and the reason I bring that up is because quite frankly, I do want to just talk about bias just a little bit. So when I first moved here from the South, let me first say that when I was adjuncting for the University of South Carolina, I was also, well, yeah, I was adjuncting for the University of South Carolina while I was getting my PhD. So I taught and I didn't intimidate anybody. You know, people in South Carolina are used to black people because when you go to South Carolina, there are black people throughout the state, including in the rural areas and everything like that, plantations, that sort of thing. So having said that, my teaching evaluations in South Carolina were always high, and people used to say things like, he's real, he's relatable, he's one of us, that sort of thing. When I came down up here to Missouri, I communicated the same way I communicated back south because that's all I knew. I grew up in the South. I'm a son of the South. And my first 3 semesters here, my teaching evaluations were trash, and people were saying he's abrasive, he's offensive, he is aggressive, he's abrasive. That kept showing up, really, really abrasive, blah blah blah. And at first I was like, what is going on? Because I never experienced that back in the Carolinas. And then I started kind of traveling around the Midwest, including getting some experiences in rural Missouri and even in Metro Kansas City, to be honest with you. And then I was like, oh, that's where this is coming from. There is a whole different racial dynamic in the Midwest compared to the South. And one thing that I realized that I was encountering here that I did not encounter in the South very often is even in grad school, a lot of times I am the first black professor that students have ever had. They have never had a black professor, a black teacher that they've ever had. They never had a black teacher. Some people didn't even have black classmates in the Midwest all the way through K-12. Then they went to college and they still never had a black professor, maybe had 1 or 2 black classmates at the college and that sort of thing. And then they get to me and I'm their first black professor. I'm the first black authority figure that they've had. And then they're like, oh, this is, and they were uncomfortable with who I was because it was not what they were used to. They were not used to the way black people communicate, and that sort of thing. And so this is a teachable moment if y'all want it. So if you're not used to black people, if you grew up somewhere in Kansas or Missouri or Iowa or Nebraska or somewhere like that, and it's not a very diverse place, and you don't have a lot of contact or haven't had a lot of contact with people of color, specifically with black people, then, this is your chance now to get that, because as you move about in your career, especially if you're in academic libraries, when you're in academic libraries, you're going to encounter people who are different from you. Okay. And especially like there are a lot of people who grew up in rural Kansas, rural Missouri, wherever, but then they get jobs in Topeka, they get jobs in Omaha, they get jobs in Wichita, they get jobs in these places, and they end up having to figure out how to communicate with people that they did not grow up around. Okay. And it can be I have seen Midwesterners, no offense, but I've seen Midwesterners struggle with that. And it is a sight to behold. Okay. So, use this as a teachable moment. Hopefully we'll get along well. And I have adjusted myself. So I've come to the Midwest so I understand and adjust to how the Midwest is. So, yeah, Midwesterners are different from what I'm used to, and that's okay. Yeah, we can, I realized that I can't communicate with people in the Midwest the way I did in the South. And, so I always tell people I do my best Wayne Brady impersonation when I'm here. If you don't know what I mean by that, Google and try to find the clip of Wayne Brady Chappelle's show, and, you will get kind of a hint on what I mean by that. But yeah, there's a certain way you have to carry yourself as a black man in the rural South. And I did that for years upon years upon years. And then I realized, oh, if you carry yourself like that here in the Midwest, people will be afraid of you. And that's exactly what was happening. People were saying in the course evaluations, they were scared to ask me questions. So, yeah, having said all that, I made adjustments because I respect the space that I'm in, that I've moved to. Because I expect the same when people move from up north to the south, which the Carolinas are actually one of the fastest growing regions in the country. And a lot of times people from up north, they come to the Carolinas and then they say, oh, these Southerners are slow, they're stupid, all these things. Well, nobody asked you to come here. You decided to come here, so respect where you are. So I decided to come here, and so I respect where I am. So having said that, I realize that I need to respect where I am and I need to make adjustments, but I also want y'all to just kind of be self-reflective as well. If you find me abrasive or offensive or aggressive or defensive or whatever the case may be, just kind of be mindful and ask yourself, is it really me in how I behave, or is it something that you're not used to, or is it even just how I look? And if we can have honest conversations and honest self-exploration about that, will be all the better for it. Because trust me, again, if you take a job in Topeka or Chicago or wherever the case may be, you may have a black supervisor, and that person may be a lot different from what you're used to if you grew up in Versailles, Missouri, or if you grew up in, I don't know, Independence, Kansas, or somewhere like that, Kearney, Nebraska, wherever. All right, so you're going to have to adjust a little bit, especially if you move to a metro area. There may be some culture shock, but that's all right. Having me is one of the educational experiences that you'll have as you get used to potentially dealing with diverse populations, okay? So having said that, let's just leave it right there. I am Dr. Jace, and we are at the start of this race. Let's have a good time. Let's finish it successfully. We're going to be okay. All right, reach out to me. I'm an email away or a message away, and I will see you in the discussion boards. Next week, we will have that sync session, and I will send out a link soon. All right.